Ma'am, with all due respect, this is a SEAL operation. We don't need a park ranger with a hunting rifle getting in the way. The younger SEALs flanking their team leader, Lieutenant Caden Vance, exchanged smirks. A few chuckled under their breath, the sound sharp and ugly in the thin mountain air. The woman, Anna Morgan, offered no reaction. Her eyes, the color of a winter sky, remained fixed on the distant cabin, her expression unreadable. She was a study in quiet contradiction. Her gear was worn but clean, her posture relaxed but intensely alert, a ghost of a figure against the granite backdrop. Vance, puffed up with the unshakable confidence of a man who had never truly been tested, continued his tirade. He gestured with contempt at her rifle, a classic Woodstock weapon that looked more at home over a fireplace than in a war zone. Just stay behind this ridge and call us if you see a squirrel. We've got this, he called her a park ranger. But the way she held her binoculars, the economy of her every movement, the profound and unnerving silence she commanded, it was all wrong. It was a language he didn't speak. He saw a middle-aged woman in hiking boots. He was blind to the professional standing before him. If you believe that true strength is proven, not proclaimed, type proven below. The condescension washed over Anna Morgan like water off stone. Her focus was absolute, a testament to a discipline forged in crucibles Vance couldn't imagine. He saw a civilian. She saw a tactical problem. 12 hostiles, well-armed and entrenched. A high-value target inside. And Vance's SEAL team, the tip of the spear, was about to walk into a perfectly prepared kill zone. Her initial report, delivered with calm precision over a Park Service radio, had been dismissed as hiker panic until a drone confirmed it. Now, forced to wait for the professionals, she simply observed. She watched the wind currents dance through the pines, noting their subtle shifts. She watched the light as it caught the edge of a window pane on the cabin. She watched the heat signatures of Vance's men as they prepared to move, their approach vector dangerously exposed from the high ground to the east. Her silence wasn't passivity, it was analysis. It was the deep, patient calm of a predator that knows the terrain better than its prey. Vance's voice was just noise, a distraction in the complex symphony of the battlefield she was already composing in her mind. His arrogance was a variable, his assumptions a liability. Her job, as always, was to mitigate liability and control the variables, whether he knew it or not. Her competence didn't need his permission to exist. The crisis arrived without ceremony. A single, sharp crack echoed from the opposing ridge, and a puff of dust erupted inches from a SEAL's helmet. The team hit the dirt, their aggressive posture instantly transformed into a desperate search for cover. Sniper. Northeast Ridge. Vance's voice, stripped of its earlier bravado, was tight with adrenaline. Another shot, closer this time, chipping granite near his position. They were pinned. Utterly and completely. The enemy shooter was a ghost, perfectly concealed in the jagged rocks 1,000 meters away. Panic, cold and sharp, began to snake through the team's comms. In the midst of this chaos, Anna Morgan moved. There was no rush, no wasted motion. She unslung her rifle, the worn walnut stock seeming to mold to her shoulder as if it were an extension of her own body. It was an M210, disguised in a classic chassis, a wolf in sheep's clothing. From a small leather pouch on her belt, she produced a single cartridge, its brass polished to a dull gleam. She chambered the round with a quiet, metallic snick. The sound was impossibly small, yet it cut through the tension with the finality of a judge's gavel. She didn't use a rangefinder. She didn't consult a dope chart. She simply settled behind the scope, her breathing slowing until it was almost imperceptible. The world narrowed to the circular view in her scope. She saw the wind, felt the subtle drop in temperature, calculated the Coriolis effect as an unconscious reflex. Her mind was a supercomputer of ballistics and instinct, processing thousands of data points in a single, silent moment. The enemy sniper, overconfident, shifted slightly for a better angle on the trapped SEALs, his movement betraying a flicker of light off his scope. It was all she needed. Vance, peering through his own high-powered optic, saw nothing but rocks and shadows. He was about to order his men to risk a mad dash when a new sound split the air. Not the sharp crack of the enemy's rifle, but a deeper, more resonant boom that seemed to emanate from the very bedrock beneath them. It was Anna's shot. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, 1,000 meters away on the northeast ridge, a small, dark shape slumped forward from an invisible perch and disappeared. The enemy fire ceased. A profound, deafening silence descended upon the mountain, broken only by the whisper of the wind. The seals slowly raised their heads, their faces a mixture of confusion and awe. Vance lowered his binoculars, his mouth hanging slightly open. His eyes darted from the empty enemy nest to the woman beside him, who was already calmly ejecting the spent shell casing. "No," he breathed, the word a fragile wisp of disbelief. "That's not possible." From the command tent miles away, Commander Thorne had watched the entire engagement on a crystal-clear drone feed. He'd seen Vance's arrogant dismissal, and he'd seen the impossible shot. His face, a mask of hardened experience, remained impassive, but a flicker of recognition lit his eyes. He keyed his mic, his voice cutting through the SEAL team's comms with absolute authority. "Lieutenant Vance, report." Vance, still reeling, could barely form the words. "Target neutralized, sir. Unknown shooter. Our civilian asset." Thorne let the silence hang for a moment before speaking again, his tone low and deliberate. "Lieutenant, what is the name of that civilian asset?" Shaken, Vance replied, "Morgan, sir. Anna Morgan." Another pause, this one heavier, charged with meaning. "Access her file, Lieutenant." Emergency authorization, Ghost. On the screen in front of Vance's radio operator, a heavily redacted personnel file materialized. The assembled SEALs stared in stunned silence as the operator read the details aloud, his voice trembling with reverence. "Name: Morgan Anna. Rank: Master Chief Petty Officer, retired. Unit: Naval Special Warfare Development Group. Specialty: Lead Sniper Instructor, Tier 1 Operations." The operator's voice faltered as he continued down the list of accolades, each one a hammer blow to Vance's shattered ego. Call sign: Ghost. Medals: Navy Cross. Silver Star with Combat V. Purple Heart, 3 awards. Mission classifications: all redacted, top secret. The air in the command tent grew thick with a new kind of respect, one bordering on myth. Commander Thorne's voice returned to the net, no longer just authoritative, but filled with a deep, personal reverence that stunned every man listening. "Lieutenant Vance," he said, his voice like iron, "you are in the presence of a living legend. That hunting rifle is the same M210 Master Chief Morgan used to set the DevGru engagement record in the Hindu Kush, a record that still stands. The position you are in was not compromised because she has been counter-sniping your flank for the last 30 minutes. You will address her as Master Chief. You will cede tactical command of your element to her, and you will follow her every order without question. Is that understood?" On the mountain, Lieutenant Vance could only stare at the unassuming woman who had just saved his entire team. He keyed his mic, his own voice now small, humbled, and utterly changed. "Yes, sir. Crystal." The story of the shot spread like wildfire. It started on the comms net, a hushed and awestruck whisper between operators. It traveled back to the command tent, where hardened veterans gathered around the drone footage, watching the replay of the impossible shot over and over again. By nightfall, it was the only topic of conversation in the barracks, in the chow hall, and on the encrypted forums where legends are born. They didn't call her the park ranger anymore. They called her Ghost, a name spoken with the kind of reverence reserved for the founding figures of their community. The tale grew with each telling. The arrogant lieutenant, the quiet professional, the single, perfect shot that defied wind, gravity, and logic. The moment became a symbol, a stark reminder that true competence wears no uniform and carries no banner. It is simply a force of nature, revealed only when it is needed most. Vance, for his part, was a changed man. The brittle shell of his arrogance had been pulverized, leaving behind a core of raw, painful humility. The next morning, as Anna prepared to hike back to her ranger station, he approached her, his entire team standing silently behind him. He stood at attention, his gaze fixed on the ground. "Master Chief," Vance began, his voice clear and steady, stripped of all its former condescension. "There is no excuse for my conduct. My assumptions put my men at risk, and your professionalism saved them. I was arrogant, I was ignorant, and I was wrong. Thank you." He didn't offer excuses or justifications. It was a pure, unconditional admission of failure and a statement of gratitude. Anna looked at him, her gaze holding not judgment, but a quiet, assessing calm. She simply nodded once, a gesture that conveyed more acceptance than 100 words could have. As she turned to leave, she paused. "Assumptions are heavier than your ruck, Lieutenant," she said, her voice quiet but carrying immense weight. "Travel light, then," she pointed to a barely visible game trail on his map. "Your exfil route is exposed from that eastern ridge. Take this path instead. It's longer, but it keeps you below the skyline." It wasn't a command. It was a piece of wisdom, a final lesson from a master to a student who was finally ready to learn. One of the younger SEALs, without being asked, walked to the spot where she had fired and picked up the single, gleaming brass casing. He held it in his palm as if it were a holy relic. Weeks turned into months. The brass casing from Anna's shot was mounted on a simple wooden plaque and hung in the SEAL team's ready room. Underneath it, a small, engraved plate read, "Morgan's Perch, 1,009 meters. Travel light." It became a touchstone, a physical reminder of the day their assumptions were shattered by a single act of quiet competence. Lieutenant Vance, no longer called Hotshot, became one of the most respected leaders in the command. He taught his new trainees not just tactics and marksmanship, but humility. He used his own story, his own profound failure, as his most powerful teaching tool. He would point to the plaque and tell the story of the ghost on the mountain, the quiet professional who reminded them all that respect is earned through action, not demanded by rank. The legend of Anna Morgan became a part of the institutional fabric, a cautionary tale whispered to new recruits, a lesson about the silent, unassuming lethality that often hides in plain sight. Her legacy wasn't in the redacted files or the medals locked away. It was in the changed behavior of a generation of warriors. The true measure of a legacy isn't found in a name carved on a memorial wall, but in the lessons that live on in the hearts of those who come after. Anna Morgan sought no recognition. She returned to her mountains, to the quiet solitude of her life, her silence as profound as ever. But the echo of her single shot reverberated through the entire naval special warfare community, reshaping its culture in a small but significant way. It reinforced a timeless truth, that the loudest voice in the room is often the most insecure, and that true strength, true professionalism, requires no announcement. It is a calm, steady force, proven in the crucible of action and defined by precision and purpose. Her story became a parable, a reminder that the most dangerous person is not the one who boasts of their power, but the one who has no need to. They are the quiet professionals, the ghosts in the machine, whose competence is their creed and whose silence is their final, unassailable argument. For more stories where quiet competence triumphs over loud assumption and where silent precision defines true worth, subscribe to Unknown Heroine Stories.